Good evening, George.
Good evening, Sam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very, very well.
Beautiful. Welcome back home.
Thank you very much. Been away 10 days, but it's great to be back.
Yeah. I hope you had a good time. You were out of the country, I guess.
Yes, but very peaceful and restful. And you, how is business? Everything okay?
Yes. So far, so good. I traveled out of Gauteng province to my home province of Limpopo over the weekend.
Okay.
So connecting with my people in Jane First, Kukune area. So we
Okay.
had some events at home. So it's always very refreshing to be back home.
Yeah. So was that a special occasion?
Yes, at my mother's house.
Oh, all right. Yeah, it brings back memories, right?
Indeed. Home is always a home.
Yeah, there's a special feel to that. And as I said, those memories are good. And a lot of those things define you today.
Indeed. You actually reconnect and understand sometimes why you do things the way you do them. So it's a great feeling. And have you settled down back? You said you came back yesterday already.
Yes, I have. I was in the office yesterday. There's no time, some time off. Yeah. I did miss this, last week's on branding. I absolutely love the subject of branding.
Yeah. By the way, were you with us last week?
No, I missed that one. That's what I'm saying. I said I missed a subject that I. In fact,
the personal
way
branding,
back
right?
In fact, back in the 2000s, I was a part-time lecturer at a university on intellectual property, and my subject was around branding. Actually, how trademarks are registered, and thousands of them are registered, and a few of them become brands that live and breathe. Your Coca-Cola, your Nikes. At one stage, they were just somebody walking in and say, I want to register this little mark. And most of them just die there. Nothing happens. But others are nurtured and they grow to be beings on their own.
Absolutely. We have it on podcasts. You can get it at insightsonlinepodcast.com, or you just go to COMETSA Radio Worldwide.com and you get unit number 28, contact 23. You can listen to it. I'm sure you'll love it. Divesh is here. I'm sure he can agree with me that we had the greatest fun, even ourselves. Welcome, Divesh.
Must be. Divesh, how are you?
Evening, Sam. Evening, George. I'm good. How are you guys?
Very well.
Very well, Divesh. I was just greeting George back from his travels. We haven't started, but I guess we can start, and we can ask each of you to just check in, greet the listeners, and tell us what you have been up to. And then, of course, a little bit of reflection on last week's topic to benefit George and those who didn't listen to it. And then, of course, get onto the topic of this evening. So let me officially welcome the guests and listeners to the show. This is COMETSA Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. we apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle we call the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. My name is Sam Zimmer. I'm co-hosting the show with my colleagues. At the moment, already in the studio, we have George Mutenda Zamera and Divesh Motilal. We're waiting for other colleagues to join, and we will introduce them as they join. The topic this evening is unit number 29, conduct number 24. We're looking at networking. Networking either internally within your organization or externally in a broader environment, be either your sector or public in general, as a source of personal and professional relationship or experts that we want to look at inviting to our shows. And of course, the priority there is connecting with them, not just inviting them as strangers. Thank you so much, colleagues George and Divesh, for joining. Let me start with Divesh to greet the listeners and give us his reflection of what we discussed last week, and of course, his perspective on this topic, which is also equally very important, George, networking. Over to you, Divesh.
Thank you. Evening once again to you, Sam, and to George, as well as to the listeners. Divesh Motilal, as Sam had greeted. I'm an engineer. I'm a director on a few companies. But I'm very passionate about what we're busy with for the last few years. That is developing and supporting budding online broadcasters, developing as we also ourselves learn the do's and don'ts of the sector, and very exciting in that from an academic, from a formal perspective, this is something very unique that COMETSA is bringing to the marketplace and, of course, to the world. Reflections on last week. Today, obviously, is an extension, a little bit deeper in terms of one of the aspects of building your brand and being able to align brand of the guest to the branding of the show, as well as the branding of your own individual brand that you'll be building as a host of a show. And just some reflections on what's happening at the moment. We were speaking about travel just briefly with George. There's some interesting travel that's taking place now in the country. South Africa is engaging quite deeply with the Chinese government, and lots of positive developments are taking place in that space. And I'm hoping that does translate to development on the ground and the much needed growth that the country needs. Thank you, Sam.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Divesh. A lot is happening. I really want to agree with you that the continent of Africa is a real focus by the rest of the world. And I think we are called upon as the residents, citizens of the continent to step up and really be ready to engage with all the people of the world and in ourselves as well, country to country, to grab the opportunities in a country that's close, the continent that will be close to 1.3 billion people in 2050. 60% of those citizens will be less than 25 years of age. So it's a young continent. And I'm reminded today about the Africa continental free trade area, the project that, in my view, is going to bring our continent and our countries much closer to each other. And the reason why I'm able to remember the statistics is because I attended a workshop this morning exactly about that. And just to support the point you are mentioning, Divesh, that as much as we are traveling the world over, there's a lot also that is happening within our own continent. And I think we need to be cognizant of that fact that we are called upon to create environment conducive for the relationships between ourselves and between the continent and the rest of the world. Thank you so much, and of course for reminding us of the last week's conversation around personal branding, and then of course professional branding. And today we continue with networking. Once you're branded, you want to tell the people out there about yourself, and networking becomes very crucial. I'm trying to welcome Rapula, Franz Ramuda, and Maynard onto the platform. I see them on the public platform. I think they may be just delaying a little bit and they'll join us. Marco has already joined us. Maynard, please join us, and then Rapula as well. Over to you, George, to greet the listeners and also give us a reflection bit on what do you think of the topic of networking, and of course, what you have been up to so far.
Right. Thank you very much. And welcome to all our listeners. I always look forward to this program. There's a lot of learning to be done. Yeah, I'm an executive and leadership coach. I work a lot with leaders. I also do facilitation, particularly of strategic planning workshops. I'm an author and a professional speaker. Regarding last week, I missed that, but I was saying to Sam that branding is really a favorite topic of mine, as I've been involved in that space for a little while. And it's so important to ensure that whether it's an individual or a business, that you brand yourself properly and you create the image that you want the world to see about you, because that's really what defines you. But today's topic is very exciting because once you've done that branding, you need then to take it out to the world and network with people. It's a very fascinating topic, and we'll talk a lot about that. I'm particularly fascinated, Sam and Devish, about after the trade area. It's amazing. The power of that is, at the moment, Africa lags way behind all the other continents. And one reason is simply because we are so segmented. You can't fly from South Africa. You can get to New York. And so starting there, we need to get Africa really to be more of an EU version, where we trade freely with each other. There's easy access from country to country. And as we do that, and as we open opportunities, and as we intertrade between ourselves, you will see a massive change. We have so much going for us that it's just about implementation. Get on the bike, let's do what needs to be done. I'm very positive about the future of Africa, but we need obviously to work on our mindsets about believing in ourselves a lot more than we do right now. There's so many limitations in the way we see ourselves, and really what needs to happen is we begin to see ourselves in a better image. They always say that you can't outperform your self-image. You got to see yourself as something worthy. And that's where Africa needs to go. We shouldn't be looking at ourselves as underperformers and looking at the US, UK as a number one and all up there. We need to start to change how we see ourselves to be better than we are right now. We'll get there. I know that. And it is actually, you can hear the passion. I love that subject because I know we have the capacity and the capability to really be the number one continent in this world. Thanks.
Indeed. The political will is there, and that's why so many countries have signed the AFCTA, and some have already ratified it. So that has been quite amazing. So it's gonna take a while, but what I found quite interesting is that the already existing regional trade blocks are not going to be removed and replaced, but they're going to be actually integrated into the AFCTA. That means then already the work that has been done on the ground is already being taken into cognizance. And then, of course, at the end of the day, it's the traders themselves, us, the economic role players, that needs to implement that and realize the benefit. Thank you so much, George. I'm also very passionate about it because I really believe very strongly that the only solution for Africa is for countries in Africa to trade with each other. And as a result of that trade, then transport will become better. Flights will happen. So, yeah, I also want to congratulate you, George. I've seen on the social media that you have acquired certification as a faith-based entrepreneur. Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sam, there's a worldwide movement around faith driven. And I volunteered to facilitate a group of entrepreneurs. So they meet once a week to share wins, challenges, successes, and share ideas on how do we overcome. So if a group comes together, one comes with a problem, how do other members chip in to help them become better? So it's an 8-week program. You meet once a week. At the end of it, some people put up their hands to set up their own groups as well. And so the beauty with that is that it is really getting entrepreneurs to think together, share problems, share solutions, give each other advice, and just support. Because entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, very very lonely journey, and you really need people around you who will pull you up in those moments when everything looks very very bleak, and you need somebody to give you support and help you with ideas. So that's what it is. And I led a group for 8 weeks, and at the end of the 8-week period they give you a certificate for it.
Well, sounds very good. So it's all entrepreneurs that believe very much
Entrepreneurs.
in very much in putting the weight as well forward as an inspiration. Am I right?
Right. That's right, sir. That's right, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I just thought we should acknowledge you for that, and well done. And
Thank you, sir.
there's a way that the listeners can get a hold of that movement. You'll share the details with us at the end when you
Oh,
check
sure.
out. Is that right?
Yeah, I will definitely do that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Maynard, to today's session. I hope you are able to hear me. Do you want to say hi to the listeners and also check in? Let us know how you have been doing.
Thanks, Andres. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening to our listeners. Well, my name is Minat Maisela, the co-host and the director at Maisela Corporate Branding. Well, on our side, we have been very busy. Business has been opening up. So it's quite an exciting journey for us because we are approaching these festive seasons. Always, we know when we approach these seasons, it's always busy for us, but it's good. We can't complain much. Yes, otherwise I can't complain much. That is, tomorrow I'm invited on one of the expos there at the Kalaka for the FESPA Africa. Is one of the events for printing industry. So yeah, otherwise I'll be on that side tomorrow and Thursday as well. No, thanks so much.
Beautiful. I'm glad to hear that things are looking good. And you're
Yeah, no,
right,
for sure.
it's a busy season. So that is your season in terms of eventing and branding of events and networking. There you are, you're going for the exhibition with the printing industry. I'm sure there's a lot of new technologies that are coming your way there.
There's a lot. There is these other Chinese guys that are also coming with the new innovated kind of machineries. So yes, we're looking forward to explore and see what they are bringing for us.
Beautiful. We're going to share with you some nuggets today in terms of networking. So hopefully you can apply them there from tomorrow onwards and give us feedback next week how the inputs helped you.
Yes.
Beautiful. Marco, welcome as well to you. Glad to see you that managed to join. I was expecting you to join a little bit later, so that means you have been able to finish what you were doing and join us here. Welcome and say hi to the listeners. Check in and let us know how you have been doing and what is your view, your perspective on the topic of networking.
Good evening, colleagues, and good evening, listeners. Today, I just had a wonderful day. First, in our company, we are also called Sumaco. We want to take advantage of the festive season, as Maynard have said. We are in the business of refurbishing VIP mobile toilets, but now we are positioning ourselves to move from refurbishment to manufacturing and to rental. So yeah, I've put a team together and we have our plans ready, and I think we are ready to start with our manufacturing. Obviously, when it comes to networking, I'll have the opportunity within my marketing strategy to network with potential customers, and also to network with companies with similar business, so that I'm benchmarking and see if I can learn something out of that. The other thing I did today was to have another meeting as the secretary of Tembisa Coordinated Welfare Organization, and by default, the project coordinator of that organization. We had our meeting today, and within the relevance of today's topic, because I am coordinating 11 organizations that are occupying land in the TCWO to render social development services, to render economic development services that looks at poverty alleviation and job creation. So yeah, I'm networking with them within the context of charity beginning at home. So my network is at a local level, and obviously as time continues, we will elevate it to the region and finally international. I'm looking forward to the show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Margo. The passion that you always bring across when you talk about the organization in Tembisa, it's very inspiring. There's always this consciousness in us that when passion and purpose are aligned, there's fireworks. That's great. That's great to hear. Thank you so much, colleagues. Yeah, I see Umpile is also on the public platform. Umpile, I'm going to try and see if I can invite you over to the studio so that we can also give you the opportunity to say a few words. In the meantime, let's get into the topic. Networking, in this case, for the purposes of connecting with the potential subject matter experts or potential guests into our show, but also broadly speaking, into your business dealings, is extremely fundamental, in my view, and highly underrated, simply because I don't think we tend to apply our mind to it from a strategic point of view. And secondly, I think sometimes we do it wrongly because we don't actually understand the main purpose of it, or we don't have an expertise on how to be tactical, not only strategic, but tactical about it, because it is not equivalent to sales or marketing. It is about building relationships with the hope that somewhere down the line, there will be mutual benefits out of those relationships that could lead to business opportunities that are long lasting. That's my way of introduction. I would like you to, before we go into the details of this first point around the benefits of networking, that you also give us your own interpretation of it. And there's no right or wrong answer to it, George.
Right, yeah. And, networking, a very, shall we say, underrated aspect of business, because it involves very, very many factors about being clear what your goals are, what you want to achieve out of it, helping others. It's more about giving than receiving, and being very, very intentional, being genuine with the people you deal with. I see it as an opportunity to create long-term relationships. Networking isn't really for the immediate benefit, but it's for long-term, and it's mutual. You benefit from others, they benefit from you. It's something that will be taken very, very seriously. So it's a very, very important aspect of business, often overlooked by people in favor of just the technical skills that people possess.
Indeed. So there is a big, very strong business case for us to develop competencies around work. I guess that's what you are implying.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Let's hear Divesh.
Yes, Sam. To the point that George was making, one of the aspects I find that networking can bring is not necessarily just to socialize, to meet people from a professional basis, but also gives you the opportunity to see other perspectives, hear other views, gain new knowledge. It also help you not necessarily only to outline potential guests that you could have on your show, but it also, especially if it's a sectoral area where a networking event is focused in on, it allows you as yourself as a as a host of a show to also gain new insights and new views in terms of what's happening in that sector.
So it is more than knowing people, but it's about knowing people with a specific objective, and in particular that benefits the two of you.
That's right.
Indeed, Sam.
Beautiful, beautiful. Datera Mutla, you have indicated that you have been practicing networking at a local base. In this case, we could say inside the organization. What is your view when it comes to external to your organization? Datera Mutla.
I think, as is indicated by George, with regard to the people outside the organization, indeed, one will benefit, not for the immediate term, but for the long term, because the more you network with the people and understand their perspective, and in them understanding the perspective of your company, the more opportunities for success in the continuous networking with them for your company. Because then out of that you might have potential customers, and out of them You must have you might have people with more skills and competencies that they might assist your company to succeed.
Mm, mm, yeah. Keeping in mind that your consciousness about it should be beyond just benefiting you, but also benefiting the others that you are networking with.
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed.
As George indicated, it's for mutual benefit.
Yes.
Beautiful. Maynard, your view when it comes to the benefits of networking. I remember last time we spoke about uh, uh, content marketing not being equivalent to sales, or knowing people not just for the sake of selling, but also to cultivate and position your brand with the hope that over a long time, you then can be able to build a sales type of relationship. As you go into your exhibition tomorrow, what you see based on what you have heard already as some of the benefits that you can only start trying to advance as you meet people tomorrow. Maynard? I'm trying to make it as practical as possible because sometimes these theories and terminologies can become very much far from the reality. So I don't know whether Maynard heard me, but we'll give him chance to reflect on that. But I have as benefits listed here. One is that George spoken to, and I think most of you touch on that, and Franz as well, is about shared knowledge. I'll come back to you, Maynard. And then, of course, you network for the purposes of sharing. And in this case, knowledge is one of those, not necessarily selling, but sharing the know-how. It also then improve your image, as we spoke about the brand last time. Now, a brand is a living, dynamic thing. And if you have embedded it within yourself, as you network, you tell people about what you stand for, more than just the logo of your company, but what stands behind that logo. That's where you improve the image of your organization. And of course, as we said, the other benefit is to increase the opportunity and positioning your organization yourself. Generating leads, absolutely. Generation of leads doesn't have to be ignored, but it doesn't have to be too blunt. But at the end of the day, if you've met somebody and you get home and you put them on your database, that could actually end up being uh, placing your new connections onto your sales funnel. And once they are in your sales funnel, depending on how attracted they are to your offerings, they ultimately could actually come on the other side as clients or business partners. So therefore, you focus on meeting people who could be regarded, Maynard, tomorrow as your alliances or strategic alliances and partners, and therefore become part of your solid network. Any reflection there, Maynard? I saw you wanted to come in there.
I understand. Mesh, yeah, my network kicked me out earlier. But yes, indeed, like such kind of networks are very important to keep, even though it might not be for tomorrow's or next week's use, but it's important to always keep them closer. And you will always go back to them in the near future whenever you need such particular network that you made a few months or weeks ago. So it's always important to keep that network closer.
Mm, mm. It's always good to know long-term benefits are always there. So you are not going to use the sales turnover of this month against the amount of networks you have done and then says, "Whew, there's no relationship, there's no alliance, therefore I'm going to stop networking." That will be a wrong approach. Good. But let's go to the next point. What could, yeah, yes, Maynard? I think your network is failing you there. That's fine. We understand and work on it, and hopefully you get it right, Maynard. But we are with you. Now the next point is now let's take it into nitty gritties and say, yes, Rabula, you are not in the studio. I'm not quite sure what network you're using. Just have a look at that invite that we sent to you. Try, please, not to use the public platform. Use the co-host network, a link. Then you'll be able to come into the studio. We're missing you here.
Show him on the studio though, Sam. Do you see
Is
him
that
in the studio?
okay? That's fine. If you
But
can see, Ndadera Rabula, can you hear me? I can't see him on my platform, so maybe there is a connection problem between him and me.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful.
Thanks.
I saw you earlier on, and I thought you might be struggling, so I'm glad you're back. We're going to give you opportunity to, I don't know how much you have had from the other colleagues, as we go on to this next point around what could really be the obstacles that we need to overcome in our networking practice. And maybe as you reflect on that, Rabula, you could also greet us and tell us how you have been and what is your perspective on the topic, but address some of the barriers or obstacles that we must be aware of as we network. In other words, we want to be very conscious around practicing networking so that we don't take it very lightly and confuse it with just greeting people and exchanging cards. But we want to look at it more as a strategic aspect of our business, but also look at the tactics of doing it in a professional manner. But let me give you the opportunity to greet listeners as you reflect. Rabula.
Thank you, Sam, and good evening to listeners. I'm listening and while I'm driving, but don't worry, I'm safe. Don't stress about it.
Okay.
Yes, the key element for me, should I first start with an introduction or can I go straight to the barriers in terms of how do you manage them?
Yeah, you can go into introduction and then get onto the point.
Yeah, my introduction is going to be very simple. My name is Rapula Modibani. I'm also managing director of Ritaleville Holding Group. So its core business is mentor and coaching of entrepreneurs, facilitation, consulting, especially in drafting business plans, and then also different aspects around the issue of the business. Today was a very hectic day for myself. I think I have minimum sleep last night, and I woke up very early. Drive through to Mafeking for an hour meeting and drive back again. Now I'm in Johannesburg already. So, but it's part and parcel of life. It's part and parcel of the consulting work. George will always say, if you are not in front of the customers, don't expect to issue an invoice at the end of the month. So you have to be in front of the customers all the time. So going to the issue of barriers of networking. There was this comment sometimes I had, I think last year or 2 years ago, that it's of no use to have networking sessions where you can't maintain those relationships. So key element around is how do you maintain them? One of the key elements is your business initiators. You need to maintain them. Maintenance of it are different formats. Sometimes say there's a conference on ABC, let's go to the conference, or you start aligning the interest of people you are networking with and then combine and put them in one basket. Over the weekend, there was a rugby. You could buy the ticket of rugby and then take your networkers to the rugby. I use as one of example. But if you don't have resources to do that maintenance, it's going to be your barriers of entry in different fields. I think I've said too much. I'll just elaborate later on, Sam, while I'm trying to get my brains around it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rabula. Indeed, it sounds like you've been having a long day. My going from Rustenburg is quite a drive, and then from Rustenburg to Kempton Park. Wow, yeah, you're right. It is But the passion carries you, I guess, and in the process, you are also meeting people. Yeah. We hear you, Umpile. Umpile is on the public platform because he's logging in from the laptop and it's giving him some challenges. So he's not able to be with us in the studio, but he's listening from the public platform. Yeah, keep on sharing those inputs with us as you have always done so. You mentioned that when passion meets purpose, the fireworks starts and great things happen. Indeed, indeed. That is absolutely the point. When person is passionate, they are energized to pursue their purpose. Yeah. So let's talk about this. Some of these obstacles I have here. The confusion about the definition of networking. That is one of the causes of obstacles. Because if you don't understand what it is, obviously, then you're going to handle it wrongly. And I think George has given us that broad definition, which is very, very helpful. And for those who might have been confusing networking to be sales and deal making and being one-sided benefit to you rather than the others, hopefully you are aware now that it is supposed to be a mutual benefit between you and the people you are meeting. And Rabula has made it quite very clear that if you are not going to be able to service that relationship, you are wasting your time because you are just burning the resources and you are not going to see the benefit of it over time. Meaning that also, if you are not sustaining those relationships for a long haul, you are also wasting your time. And I think most of us will agree. The challenge is exactly that, of keeping the networks that you have created. And if you don't want to invest resources in it, you might not be able to keep those networks. And therefore, the brand that you have created will not actually be grown because you can't brand for the sake of just branding. You need to brand to inspire your potential customers. So yes, the understanding of what it is and what it is not is very important. And of course, they also talk about our own personality traits. Most of us, people in general, have got different personalities. Some are very conservative and some are very outspoken, or should I rather say introverted and extroverted. If you are introverted, you are going to have to work very hard to be able to really practice networking, especially if you're running your own business and you don't have a special person to network on behalf of your business. You're going to have to work very hard to overcome the limitations that is brought forward by your personality traits. If you are extroverted, you are also going to have it quite very easy to connect with people, but you have to be very conscious of the fact that you might be coming out too much on those that are introverted, and therefore you still also have to measure yourself. So that is a challenge there as well. So self-knowledge, self-consciousness is therefore becoming important, especially if you have taken a strategic decision that networking is going to precede your business development and content marketing and sales. So you need to place it in the right space. As you can see, that it sounds like networking is the very first thing to build. It's almost like a project of building a database. The other barrier is cultural barriers. So it's a tricky one, this one. And that's why when you meet new people for the first time, it's very important to be interested in who they are, where they come from. In other words, interested in them before even you want to network with them, and also introduce yourself to them. And that will tell you whether they can be open to your style of networking with them. Because if you're going to upset the cultural values of other people, they're just going to walk away from you without telling you what it is that they don't know about you. I'll give you time, George, just to reflect on that. And then I have experienced this quite a lot, and especially if cultural differences are very politicized because of certain perspectives that we come with into our arenas. Personal pride is another barrier, especially people who are very highly egoistic and are very sensitive to their egos being battered. But personal pride, that's where now you put yourself above the others and you see yourself as better than the others. You might have difficulty there, and that's a challenge. And of course, time constraints. Going out to these networks means you investing in time and making time available. And then, of course, saying the wrong things without knowing, innocently saying things that rub people wrongly. And then, of course, knowing where to go for networking. There's like we were saying, there's so much that is happening today that you could actually run around from one event to another achieving nothing, because you need to be very critical of the events you are going to attend. And lastly, the other obstacle is fear of being rejected. I want to own up to say that sometimes I find myself not dealing very well with rejection. But sometimes it's just my own perception. Meanwhile, maybe I'm not being rejected, I'm just judging myself. So I can see George and Divesh are burning to say something about these obstacles. Let me give George time, and then after that, Divesh, you can come in.
Thank you. All of those points that you have raised are very, very real points. But I would like just to advise the listeners that always the starting point is setting clear goals. Why am I networking? What do I want to achieve? Once you're clear that these are my goals, then it will make it easier as you go out now to actually do the networking. It answers the question of where to go. My goal is to do X, and therefore the tribe that does X is to be found at this place. So that clarity is huge. But very important now is that the world has become a very small place. And therefore, being culturally sensitive is very, very big. You offend when you don't mean to. You get offended by people who don't mean to offend you. And so it's always very advisable when you go out networking to seek first to understand than to be understood. Understand why the other guy is there, what his background is, why are they doing what they're doing, etc. It makes it easier then for you to jump in. If you are going to go to a networking event and you want everybody to listen to you first, then you are going to say the wrong things, have run into cultural barriers, etc. And so issues of time become important. But really starting with the point of what do I want to achieve from here? And in the process, where should I go? Who should I talk to? I thought that I would add that to all the good things that you have said, Sam.
Thank you, George. Indeed. Because, George, the point you are raising about setting the goal suggests that it's not networking for the sake of networking.
Yes, you don't. Sorry, I was going to say you don't leave your house to say, I'm just going to network. No, you're going somewhere for a reason. And you, at the end of the session, when you get back home, you sit down and reflect and say, did I achieve my goal? So there's a reason why. Yeah.
And in the process, you are burning resources. Traveling from point A to point B is petrol, is time, is energy.
Yeah.
So you must account for yourself.
There you go.
Great. Divesh?
Yes, and just to reiterate what George was saying, that was also the main point I wanted to bring to the discussion, is that you got to firstly determine what is it that you want to achieve. There is a myriad of networking events, opportunities that present themselves. You got to be able to select which one is the most appropriate for whatever you're trying to achieve at that point in time. Sometimes as well, I believe, if you may be in a rut, Sometimes it's good to just go out, network for the point of unlocking your mind, getting a new perspective, having a fresh idea, if the resources permit. But if there is some goal that you've set for yourself, you got to then select which networking opportunity is best suited for you to achieve that goal. And just also the other point I wanted to raise as well, or support, was that of cultural barriers. When we talk cultural barriers, we must not overlook the fact that within a specific sector, you could have a culture that's enshrined within that sector. For example, if you go to an event that's focused on energy sector, then you will find that the type of people that you will have there in that event are most inclined towards a culture that's engineers, technical people. The type of discussions that would be had would be in alignment with provision of an energy service. So that's a type of culture as well, that when you go to that event, you got to also align yourself to that culture. So it's not necessarily your traditional culture where we're talking about race groups and actual culture of communities, but it's a broader aspect of sectoral, cultural, organizational cultures that you would have to be dealing with there as well, Sam.
Indeed, sector-specific culture and practices and values are very important. And if you are not familiar with that culture, then it's even more so important that you set your clear objectives, as George said, and then of course you plan, and even maybe get other people that are that are in that space to settle you down or to guide you, without necessarily being too stringent, but so that you don't upset those cultural norms and practices. So, Maynard, I'm sure we are sharing with you something that you might add onto your planning for tomorrow. In terms of the printing, I don't know what the sector you call it. Is it printing sector, or what do you call it that you are attending tomorrow? Okay, we lost Maynard again, but yeah. So, Ndadera Mutla, any specifics there around the networking culture within the NGOs?
Yes. Whilst I was in the Department of Social Development, the MEC used networking most often. The organizations that he was calling had different networks based on their core businesses, based on what if there is an organization for children, all the organizations for children are brought together to network in terms of the policies of the department, so that when they go to engage with the MEC, they've got common goals, and then they've got common program of action. And when the MEC engages them on strategic issues with regard to the vision, mission, and goals of social development, so that then they have a role to play as a collective. And as we talk about the culture, also, those organizations have different cultures, because then they sing the same language. Yeah, I think networking is very prevailing in the NGO sector and in the government sector.
Sometimes they may not call it networking, but it is networking. Sometimes it's just a desire for like-minded organizations to come together. But if you are in that setup and you are conscious of the role of networking, you can define it as a networking opportunity for yourself without necessarily having networking as a theme of that get together. In many cases, that's what is the case. George?
That's right. That's right, Sam. By whatever name it goes under, most organizations encourage it. In fact, in my previous job, one of the things that we did was we would, at the beginning of each year, define the key stakeholders in our business. Who are the top 20, top 30 stakeholders? And then create networking opportunities around that. How will you network with the CEO of a financial institution? Design and who goes to that place. Do you send an FD? Do you go yourself? What do you do? But everything is deliberate right through, because sometimes the benefit is not going to come from the person on the other side, the person you are talking to directly, but the benefit will come from someone who he knows, who he recommends you, if you know what I mean. So it's most people will look at networking as a direct, just between you and me, but actually, in more cases than not, it's the multiplier effect. The more you raise your brand in relation to an individual, the more likely they are to recommend others to you. So you never lose sight of the fact that out of every person you network with, there may be potentially 5, 10, 15 people coming back to you from that source. Yeah.
Wow, that's so profound, George, what you've just said now. I like that point. We always focus too much on this particular person that you are talking to. And sometimes halfway through talking to this person, say, "Hey, this person, I don't think is going to give me anything. He's far from what I'm about." Forget that he has his own networks. So as long as he's interested in connecting with you, he can become that multiplier you're talking
Right,
about.
right.
This is profound, George. I think you have just given us some powerful insight there, take home for us to look at. Don't rush to judge the potential of this person you are talking to. The fact that the person is hooked into listening to you, that is really important, because they might know somebody that may benefit from connecting with you, and they will recommend you to that somebody.
That's right.
Powerful, powerful indeed. Now, let's look at a couple of networking principles here. And I think this speaks to how we go about doing it. I have few points here that I'm going to mention, and I would like the rest of us to also comment on that. First principle is that of developing contacts. So which suggests that yes, if you meet somebody at the event that you already know, you'll say hi, but you can't sit with that person if the intention is to meet new people. You meet that person, maybe that person can introduce you to somebody you don't know. That's great. But if they don't introduce you to a new person, so you are not developing contacts, you are basically servicing your contact. Yes, meet them, greet them, be appreciative that they are there, and say, I'm around. Let me just mingle around, and great to see you. So I'm just emphasizing that. Don't say, hey, when I know you now, I'm not going to waste time with you. No, you can't say that. But acknowledge them, but don't overspend on them, because you must meet new people. That's the first principle. The second principle says organize your contacts. I think this speaks to the point that George raised in earlier on, that networking to a point that you can't actually manage the amount of networks, or you don't have a way of organizing these contacts, you are actually not going to achieve a lot. So that speaks to what you do once a person has entered your stakeholder groupings. The third principle is that of follow-up. And this one is quite a weakness of many of us, and we should actually manage it, because it is actually becomes a way of harvesting the new network. And what I normally do, and I would like to hear you guys how you go about it. What I normally do when I've met a person and I've developed a contact, when I get to my office the following day or the same day, is to drop them a note to acknowledge and appreciate the contact we have had. And then secondly, what I will do, I will add it to my contact list, but also make a remark behind their name in terms of where I met them. Because sometimes you forget the name, but you will remember the event. And thirdly, I will immediately go onto LinkedIn and send them invite. But I will have asked them before I left them whether they are on LinkedIn and whether they mind me inviting them. And I've been conscientized around this thing. Sometimes we meet people and then quickly we just go to LinkedIn and we invite them. And we haven't courteously asked them if they mind if we can connect on LinkedIn. That is one new learning that I've done recently, and I think it's only respectful to do that. The fourth principle is that of maintaining these relationships. It's important to, and I think LinkedIn is good in that sense, because if you have connected with them and then you are a person like my friend Divesh, who's always on LinkedIn, when you post and they are connected with you, they will pick it up and they will engage with your thing. Even if they don't engage, you are as good as servicing them, because they'll see what you do. The fifth principle is that George raised, that you need to listen first before you want to be listened. Because if you don't listen first, you might be pouring out a lot of your soul or of your stuff that they may not be interested in. The reason why you listen is to establish whether there's some commonalities in terms of interest or the business that you are in. The sixth principle is that of you must always make sure that there is a value that you are offering. Not necessarily directly, but there's something that you are bringing to the conversation and connecting to people that might interest this person. And in many cases, that will be possible after you have listened, because then you then bring something that you are quite confident that they will be interested. Like this afternoon, today, when I met this person who come from a legal fraternity, and he actually came from the company where I've got a very good friend of mine working there. So I said to him that, greet my friend there, tell him we met, and by the way, I'm going to check if I can invite you on LinkedIn. And when I got into the office, I see he has accepted my invite. I thought that was quite. You lay the ground and you give this person a reason why they should accept your proposal to connect. And then the last principle is that you need to build trust, and that trust may not be there immediately after you have met person. But what you do, for instance, in terms of follow-up, that might say to the people, that is a kind of a person that I want to have in my network. Maybe I may need them somewhere down the line. Yeah, so those are the principles that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Any remarks there, reflections, perspectives? Divesh?
Yes, Sam. To your point in terms of building that relationship and the steps that one can follow in regards to building the relationship to a formal level, and then of course to maintaining that relationship. I just wanted to articulate that when we are wanting to connect through the social media platforms such as LinkedIn and of course the COMETSA's platform itself, we must make sure that what we've discussed, what we've shared when we had a physical engagement with the potential networking partner, that our social media presence, like if it's LinkedIn, for example, is in alignment with what you spoke of. Again, it's part of building that trust. Sometimes even what happens in my own examples is that I would meet someone, you'd share the name, and luckily, whatever I was saying was of interest to them. And then you would find that even though we haven't discussed, let's meet on LinkedIn, they already checked your profile on LinkedIn to validate some of the things you've shared. And if it's valid, then you see them asking again to connect on LinkedIn so that they have your contact details and can engage further on the aspect. So my point is really that even on the COMETSA's platform that we have, other social media platforms that you have. Make sure that your information is up to date and it further enhances that trust element that you want to bring.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. George?
Yeah, I've got 3 comments really on the 7 items that you've mentioned. The first one is a comment on follow-up. And I've found from my own experience that follow-up is very meaningful when it's done immediately following the event. So maybe same day or the following day. If you're following up 2 weeks later, we met at an event and you go cold, and then 2 weeks later you say, hey, it was great meeting you 2 weeks ago. It shows a lack of seriousness, and probably you're not quite respecting the guy. So ideally, if you're going to follow up, make it sure it's hot. When the iron is hot, you follow up. Hey, LinkedIn, then you go into this LinkedIn story, etc. So that's the first point. And then the second one around listening, and it is inviting each other to LinkedIn. So I've found a trend which is not very good, where you meet somebody, you engage on LinkedIn, and the first thing they do is to send you a note that says, I'm selling this and this, are you happy to buy? I just find that if you're going to connect on LinkedIn, send a few notes, understand, follow up on their posts. They've posted this, make a comment around that, is it, before jumping in to try and sell them something. So really, it speaks to that listening. Don't be in a rush to sell something to somebody. And the moment someone does that to me, I'm not I'm not taking them seriously. And then the last one is about building trust. They say trust is given. People give you trust. You don't perform any magic to get some trust from somebody. They choose to give it to you. And so what you're going to do, you're going to do certain things, engaging them on LinkedIn, sending them free posts. You're posting something on some some thought leadership that you've written, and you're posting it to them just for their information, etc. With time, they kind of look at you and say, oh yeah, maybe this is somebody I can trust. But understanding that at the end of the day, the only way trust will come is because they give it to you. And so do the best you can to ensure that people will eventually give you that trust. So those are my 3 comments on those points.
Yeah. So trust is earned, as they say.
Yeah, you can't perform magic for people to give you trust. They choose to give it to you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Ndadrabula, Ramutla.
Oh, thank you, Prasem. All the 7 principles apply to the situation where you recommended Sumaco to the Austria South African Business Forum. I want to confirm that when I arrived there, I saw you, and we only met for 5 minutes, and you went to meet other people. And I also met other people. And there was a briefing just to give us the perspective of the Austria South African Business Forum. From there, then we were allocated to different businesses according to the profiles that we had submitted. So we were able then to network with people in those business sectors. Although some were not relevant to ours, but we were able to be creative and find some relevance there and network with those people. After that, Prasem, we shared contacts, and these people kept contact with us. Even now, we are still talking. So I think from there, I also developed some notes, and I've added them on my contacts. Unfortunately, I'm not on LinkedIn, but we still maintained relationship with those people.
Indeed. And by the way, email is another tool that can be used to build a network. So it's not a train smash if you're not active on LinkedIn. Email, if they've exchanged cards with you within the same day or following day, as George recommended, you drop a note and acknowledge and thank them for the time they spent with you, and make yourself available for continuous exchange, which is basically what
Indeed,
you've done.
yeah, indeed, the email is very useful because we're still continuing to talk, and we are still updated about further forums. There was an Africa forum, but I was not able to attend, but it was organized by the same organizers of Austria South African Business Forum. So
Yeah,
the communication is still continuing through emails.
yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for that. That's a good practical example. And in this particular case you have shared with us, it was a structured kind of networking, which is called matchmaking, where you were given profiles of those Austrians, business people who were coming to the country, and you shared your profiles, and then they ask you which of these companies do you want to be connected with, and when you got there, and then you had your timetable scheduled, and you could then meet, which is one of the ways that is done. And when you have that kind of a setup, you really have to take maximum advantage of that. Divesh, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, I just wanted to play devil's advocate a bit, Sam. Even though George is the attorney on the group call, as much as it is that we could use alternate ways of communicating, we really must strive towards building a reputation, building a brand that we've spoken of in the other modules, and things like social media. It's a must.
Mm,
If someone you meet for the first time, yes, you can engage with the email or a phone call, but it's always interesting that if you check somebody's social media and look at all the other things that they have to share about their skills, their experiences, their backgrounds, it sparks new sort of life, a new point of conversation. So they might actually see something that you didn't mention to them, and then they would actually reach out to you and say, "Oh, by the way, I saw this on your profile," and then that actually is something more of interest to the person than you would have might or you might have shared with them with your conversations and the like. So yes, although any forms of communication is important, I would just wanted to stress that in light with the areas of focus that we are posing,
mm,
you should definitely try. I mean, there's no barriers really uh,
mm,
of entering into that space, and it's very important that you have a digital presence that represents you.
mm,
Even when you're not even speaking to them, people can find you through that. And the person you met, uh, people within their network can also find you. So it's not even a direct relationship that you're building, there's the indirect, and it could actually grow, especially when you start posting and they like what you posted. They will
mm,
post it into their networks, and then that actually is the real networking opportunity that you would have with the digital presence.
mm. Yeah, and I think in that Mutla, you are being challenged there. We have spoken about it before. I know you have it in your marketing strategy that you need to start making Tumaco available on social media, and you yourself, unfortunately or fortunately, you cannot create Tumaco presence before you have Ndadera Muta's presence on LinkedIn. So I'm sure that's helpful in terms of reflecting on how you approach it. Yeah, I think that's point taken. And in actual fact, Divesh, you're right. It's taken for granted that everybody has a social media account. In fact, they don't ask you, do you have a social media account? They actually go and check. And if they don't find it, they just say, okay, no, this one is not moving with times. And they make that conclusion, which might be harmful to your brand. You wanted to comment on that, Ramut? We don't want you to go into prolonged thing, but I think you have indicated that this is something you are taking into consideration as part of your branding. Am I right? Ramut?
No, sorry, may you repeat yourself? My network was up.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I think the comment from Divesh there is helpful in terms of your branding of your company, but that suggests that before you can have a Tumaco social media account, you must first have that Ramuta account on LinkedIn. Then you can only build this. He was saying that it is assumed by people that in times we live in, one will be present on a social media platform.
Indeed, Divesh, it is true. How do I advertise to Marco when I'm not on social media? I have to go on social media, and so that then I sell myself before I sell to Marco. So yeah, we
Yes.
have a very long road to go as to Marco. As advices I'm getting from Brasem. So yeah, we are starting to work on branding myself first, but also branding my company, so that then when I go to LinkedIn, they know who I am, and when I start selling my products and my brands, they are related with the brand Franz Ramons.
Yes. So he was also implying that for the kind of work we're doing on this digital online streaming platform, we're missing you on that platform because they hear that Ramuta, but when we do posting on social media, they never see that Ramuta. They never see Marco.
Yeah,
And Marco is not even, we can't even tag Marco. There's always missing one of us.
I'll work very hard around it. Thanks for the advice.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I guess we have answered why we network. The basic minimum is to gain that trust, be visible, be an insider, and gain advantage of it. But there are many more reasons why we do it, and we have touched on that. But the how is what many of us are having to improve on, and people in general. Everybody knows the value and the rationale behind networking, but how we do it is each one of us style. But the basic generic how is listed here to say, create a fiscal networking group. We are a fiscal networking group in a certain way, what Napoleon Hill called mastermind groups. And some people call it a personal board of directors. Some people call it whatever. There's some group of some sort. George will remember how we got to meet, and we still every now and then meet at Prof. Mazui's weekly online leadership platform. So that could be another kind of a physical networking group, especially when you have the opportunity to meet face to face. Attend networking events, that is a given. And that attending of networking events, I want to emphasize, that is a burning of resources. It's not as easy and cheap as we are talking about it. It is something that you need to manage very carefully. But if you don't do it and you don't spend money, a little bit of money on it, you might not be at the events, because some of the events you have to register and you have to be invited and be allocated a slot. But the fundamental is you've got to be showing up. You've got to show up before you can even network, unless you do it on a social media platform, which is the next point. Social networking sites. There you are, and there are sites, there are platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Meet new people is another how. And then we have touched on this, that when you go into a networking, don't just sit with the people you came with. Make sure that when you arrive there, each one of you spread around. We call it mingling around. And one of the talent that you must apply, which many Africans will have, is meeting strangers. Siyakubona kunjani? Yeah, just how you just open And then normally what you do, you look at the name. Oh, tell me, what is the name of your organization about? Don't say, yeah, you can say it. I'm Sam Zima. I'm from COMETSA. This is what we do. Sometimes it sounds like you're very selfish. But just look at the name of a person and read out the name of their company. Oh, Rekhalefile Holdings Group. Wow. Interesting name. And then ultimately, sometimes without saying anything, the person will start telling you about them and who they are. And they feel appreciated and valued. So meet new people. That's really the whole idea of networking. Be polite, of course, and as we said, make sure that those people that you have met, and that normally my standard is minimum 1 to 3 people, maximum 5 people, because you ought to have engaged in a dialogue with people if you want to achieve something. But if you're going to meet 10 people and you met each one of them 5 seconds, you are just collecting business cards. And when you write to people, they can't relate to anything because you never really entered into a dialogue. You never really discussed anything that sticks out of their mind and therefore make them want to connect with you. So it's very, very important that you create that conversation. So that's my standard. Sometimes I'll meet one person, but that one person becomes actually a very interesting, powerful network rather than just wanting to meet many people. Especially when you go to bigger events like exhibitions and conferences, you could start counting how many cards I gave up. You see people emptying their business cards, but that means nothing unless really you have been a key player in other ways. George, you have been a motivational speaker. Then indeed, after that, people come for your card. They have got some connection. That is absolutely granted. Let's do that. But if you are just one of the participants, meeting too many people, you're going to struggle to create a point of reference for when you make a follow-up. Allow relationships to develop naturally. There you are, George's point. Let it be a natural process. Sometimes you meet this person second, twice, third. When you meet for the fourth time in the common places, then the relationship builds. Sometimes it takes the whole year you're meeting and not getting anything done, but you're recognizing each other. And then lastly, create networking referral lists. And that is to speak to the point where George was saying that sometimes you meet somebody, it's not for you, but you have a network of yours that could benefit from that. Replicate as much as you want other people also to refer people to you. Also refer people to others. And this is also one of the challenges. Sometimes people become very stingy with their networks. Oh, if I give George the contact of Diverge and then Diverge and George make business, I've just made them meet, I benefit nothing. It's not true. You benefit a lot because they will always remember who brought them together. At the right time, when they come across another opportunity that is for you, if they are really genuine about their networking, they will refer you to them. One hand washes another. So, what is our experiences when it comes to the how of it? I know we are belaboring the point, but I think we are also keeping our listeners in mind here that there might be somebody that is listening that has never really looked or thought of networking in the way we are putting it now. Is there any point to add, Rapula? I'm sure you have now sort of settled down where you were going, and I hope we have indulged you a little bit, and you can give us your own reflection there. Any other reflection there on the how of it? There's no right or wrong. I think all of us, we've got different styles of how we go about it.
Well, from my side, Sam, I don't necessarily want to add to what you've articulated in terms of how to build the networks. I just wanted to share one of the drawbacks, and this also goes with some element of segregating or having a divide for those who don't have the resources. A lot of these good networking opportunities, they often come with price tags, and that I find to be prohibitive for a lot of the people who actually do need those opportunities for those networking events. When I say resourcing needed, these network opportunities usually charge you a fee to actually go there. But that being said, um, it's also important to probably build a network with people who do attend these kinds of events. You may not be able to attend yourself, but if you could find someone within your social network itself that can represent you, and if you know that they're going for such an event, ask them to get certain kinds of information for yourself, try and represent you at these events, so when they come back you can then engage in a mechanism, and of course add on to what you articulated in terms of what or how you go about building your network.
Indeed, indeed. I'm sure, Divesh, thank you so much for that point. Again, that's a creative way to mitigate the resources that you may not have. I'm sure you've come across a number of times where people will call you and say, "Do you know somebody who is involved in this 1, 2, 3 business because I have a need?" And why they come to you, Divesh, is because they know that you are networked. And then, of course, there's a limit to it. But if those people are deserving people in terms of your own assessment in your relationship with them, it sounds very nice. It's very fulfilling when you are able to help somebody who hasn't been able to build the network that you have. And they acknowledge and recognize you to be the person who's building such networks, and you are able to help them. That is a value add that you are giving to them as part of your network. George?
That's that. You're absolutely right. I also wanted just to comment on what David says about limitations, particularly now when physical meetings have come back into fashion after COVID. Um, you can't attend every event, and being clever about it is also very important. Understanding that if you work in an office and there's 2 of you going to the same event, you would let one guy go and then ride on his back. But I wanted to talk about, like whole day events, and you're going to a whole day events like an HR summit that takes a whole day. Be careful. That's where your point comes in. Don't get back home with 30 business cards, because it's not clearly you haven't engaged to that level. Be very clear about, if I walk out of this place with 2 or 3 cards, and I get to know who it is that I'm going to talk with. It's very important. Being very deliberate about, because in events that are big like that, the temptation is to say hello to this one, hello to that one, and before you know it, you've collected a mountain of cards that mean nothing. Be very deliberate that I'm going to engage up to maximum of 5 people. And after that, I'm just going to be listening. And if someone approaches me, of course, I'm prepared to share. That's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to plow and then you look back, there's no plant growing.
Yeah, you know everybody from their cards, but you can't remember this card and associate it with a face. That's not that's not good networking.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Good point. This is really valuable information that we're sharing. And there's also, we spoke about the networking tools. I'm gonna jump that we talked about social networks, blogs, chat rooms, emails. So this is more inclined to technology, but I think also events is one attending events is one way of doing that. We spoke about interpersonal relationships. We talk about being specific. And of course, being professional in terms of keeping your weight and being genuine, holding dialogues, we mentioned that. And there's something here mentioned in terms of maintaining boundaries. Sometimes, as you talk to people, you may find that the people have got certain boundaries they've set themselves, and you don't become aware of it. So if you become aware of boundaries, respect them. For instance, if you go to an event and you have a CEO of a company, a very highly strategic company or sensitive company, and they are walking around with people, and then you mistaken a bodyguard to be an employee of that company. And then as you talk to a person and you see this guy say, look, I'm not really keen on this, that means there's a no-go area. So that is a very difficult one, but be aware that not everybody that is there is for networking. They are there on duty. I've just picked up an odd example of a bodyguard or a technical person who's there to make sure that the equipments work. They may not be interested in it, you know. So keep the boundaries. And then, of course, some of the mistakes that they said we do that we must always be aware. George, you spoke to taking before giving. It's very rude to just want to sell before you actually offer anything to me. Avoid making assumptions. The point I've raised where you make assumptions that everybody that is there is for networking. That's not the case. Reaching too high, that is sometimes they are certain, like ministers. Ministers come there and everybody just want to speak to the minister, but the minister is not really an actionary in the department. They're not going to be able to help you in many ways. You're just reaching too high because it's a good thing to say, I met Minister so and so. And then what do you do with that network? That's the point there. Assume tools create connections. You've got these gadgets today. People will say, don't take a business card anymore. Let's just showcasing how highly technical you are and thinking that people are going to be excited about it. Some people are just not excited by that. So don't over-invest in the tools. Don't over-invest in your business card. The number of business cards, as we have said, mean nothing. And of course, not meeting new people, we've touched on that, and not following through. That's the worst mistake you can do because then you are not harvesting that new network. Having too high expectations. Sometimes it's okay when you don't get anything from the new people you have met. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, not next year, but maybe a year after. It's a long-term thing. And not being professional, that's also another mistakes that they say we tend to make. I'm mindful of time. We've gone over time. Let me ask you to reflect on all these points we have covered, some of the notes that I've shared with you, and then, of course, at the same time, check out because we've gone out of beyond time now. It just shows how valuable this topic is and how much value are attached to it. Anyone want to check out first, please feel free to check out and reflect and share with us your take home.
My take home, Sam, and check out as well, is that before you embark on a networking event or a networking opportunity, make sure you know what you want to achieve, what you'd like to have as a goal, and try to assess yourself in terms of whether your approach worked or if it didn't work. And then you know going forward whether you need to adjust your strategy or you can stick to the one that you've embarked on. Thank you, Sam.
In the context of our digital online streaming, if the networking was for you to find potential guests to invite to the show, that becomes almost the goal. And once you have achieved it or you have met potential, then you have a work to do in terms of following up, and that's great because then you are being driven by the objective there. Thanks, Divesh.
Yeah, maybe if I could also check out, just to say for my part, really, this is a very important subject. In fact, last week's session and this session are very, very important. particularly for us entrepreneurs who work either as with small teams or as individuals. This is very important in creating your own ecosystem that will help grow your business. So it's something that you should approach with a high level of seriousness and attention. Give it full attention. Give it full respect as you embark on networking. It's really is a very, very powerful tool. And as you said last week from the notes I saw, if you don't brand yourself, people will brand you. So go out there and ensure that people understand who you are, what you stand for, why you do the things that you do. And in turn, you'll understand other people as well and create that, as I say, ecosystem that will help your business. Thank you.
Indeed. I 100% agree with you. This is, and the barriers of entry into networking are not that high, especially if you take advice that we've been shared here, that if you are not able to attend, you probably know somebody who's able to do so. Therefore, don't sit back and say, I have no resources to network. It's a matter of just being creative and have the abundance mentality and look around your networks that are closest to you. It could be a family member, it could be a friend. If you ask them, you'll find that they are in a fortunate situation where they have resources to attend and they can share that network with you. Great stuff. It is doable. Thanks, George. Margot?
Thank you very much, Rasem. I have new insights tonight. And the first one is the definition of what is networking by George. What is it? What it is not? And then we learned that when you are networking, you must also follow a strategic approach and start by setting goals. Those goals and objectives then will give you the opportunity to have an outline of the things that you are going to do when you network with your networkers. The second new insight is why do we network? In the beginning, we talked about passion and purpose, and we might easily ask, what is the value-adding role of networking for you as an individual, for your company, and for the people that you are networking with? So tonight we were getting the perspective into why do we need to network. And then the third question that we engage on was how do we network within the strategic planning processes? How do you implement your networking? We have outlined a number of things that inform us about how do we network. The benefits for you as an individual, the benefit for your company, and for your networks. And then you've taken us through the 7 principles. But my take home, George, when you talk about seek first to understand, then be understood, is one of the 7 principles of Stephen Covey.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So he said to us, we must first understand the people that we network with, so that then they can understand us when we collaborate, when we interact. It's quite an interesting principle. And at the end, Prasam talked about keeping boundaries and inform us that not everybody who is there for networking. It was very interesting for me. We're talking about the security there and the people that are arranging music. They will not be interested in networking with us. Yeah, I enjoyed the I enjoyed the session tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nadera Mucha. Great one. Thanks for that summing up. Beautifully done. And Nadera Bula, are you able to check out for us? For yourself, sorry.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, I do. I think my take home today is the intention of networking. It's the purpose of networking. And also the key element around that is maintenance of that networkers. It's very critical in terms of saying, do you grow your business along those lines and how do you grow it? It doesn't have to happen immediately. It may happen once, and maybe in even 10 years from today, person recall, oh, by the way, 10 years ago, I had a conversation with Sam on this subject matter. Let me get in touch with him. So those are dynamics on days. How do you take it home? That's my take home for this evening. But yes, networking is very crucial. So even when you do your budget forecasting, make sure that it's inclusive in that aspect. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rabula. I'm not sure if Maynard is able to check out. Maynard, are you with us?
Yes, thanks, well, I can say I learned a lot as well as I'm approaching this expo tomorrow. I don't have to pick up more cards unnecessary that won't benefit me. The purpose is to network and to engage deeply with one or few people that I think they will be more impactful into my business as well, even in my own personal development. So definitely, I think I will have to be cognizant on that point, and that would be my takeaway.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Umpile, I know you are not able to check out as you are not in the studio, but yeah, I hope you find it quite helpful. Yeah, thank you, colleagues. Thanks for allowing us to go over time a little bit. This was really great, and I think we can benefit a lot from these insights if we practice them consciously. One other element that we didn't manage to cover is the question of time management. That these things needs to be built into our group activities, needs to be scheduled in our agendas so that we are able to maximize the time we have available. And of course, managing the relationships, we touch on that in details. Be responsible, give back, separate personal from business activities, stay physically in touch, and contact your network regularly. Be honest, give personal attention to those networks. And as we have said, please limit networks to a manageable size. I think those are really the do's and don'ts, and valuable indeed, not only for our digital online streaming activities, but also for our businesses. Great. So, yeah, we are moving ahead, and next week we're going to look at conduct number 30. Divesh, we are getting closer and closer to 40. And this contact number, unit number 30, not conduct. Unit number 30, contact number 25. And this is quite interesting. This is actually speaking to keeping the relationship. It's titled Aftercare. How do you take care of the networks that you have created or the people that you have invited into the studio as your guests? That's really quite very, very important. Providing excellent aftercare to the guests and listeners alike, an integral part of customer service. And we are going to look at the topic of customer service because these are our customers. They are our stakeholder. You can also call it stakeholder servicing, George. So I really look forward to that one. It's going to be quite interesting. But we look at it from a customer service point of view. And customer service is not as much as sales. It's taking care of them before, during selling, and after selling. So that is going to be our focus next week. Thank you so much, colleagues. It's been valuable. My name is Sam Zimmer, and I've been joined by colleagues George Mutenda Zamera, Divesh Motilal, Franz Ramutla, Maynard Maisela, Rabula Mudivani, and at a distance in Paris, Umpile Pile. Great team indeed. And all these people, maybe with exception of Ndadera Muta, who will soon make an effort, they are available on LinkedIn. And they are looking forward to hear from you in terms of this. This podcast will be available, or this conversation will be available as podcast at insightsonlinepodcast.com or you can just go to COMETSA Radio Worldwide.com and you will listen to it. Within the next 24 hours, it will be available. You can get it as well at Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many other popular podcast platforms. That was COMETSA Radio Worldwide, the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. Thank you very much, listeners. We appreciate your time always. Please take care until we meet again. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.